Welcome to Point Blank, the podcast where teenagers talk real life, real faith, and real awkwardness, like cringe level real. We're the youth of Stony Point, and we're not here to sugarcoat anything. From school stress to spiritual struggles, from social media to doubting God, we're taking aim at all of it, point blank. Our motto? Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young. That's 1 Timothy 4:12, and yes, we did look that up ourselves. So buckle up, grab a snack, and remember, this podcast might not solve all your problems, but at least you won't be the only one trying to figure it all out. Let's go. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Point Blank Podcast. My name's Ty, youth minister here at Stony Point, and thankful that you've joined us on this journey, and hope that you have been encouraged by it like we have in our discussions and in our time together. Today on Point Blank, we're going to discuss something every Christian deals with at some point or another in their life, and that's struggles. But the twist is that we're not just going to talk about how struggles hurt us in our faith, but how they can build us up too. And I brought the perfect guest with me today to talk about this subject. I've got Mae Ellis with me, so I'm going to let Mae tell you a little bit about herself, and then we'll dive in.
Hey guys, my name is Mae Ellis. I'm a 9th grader at Morrisville Bible School. And a little fun fact about me, it's kind of weird, is that I love pickles.
Love pickles, all right.
Yeah.
Like dill pickles, sweet pickles?
Any pickle.
Any pickle,
Any
doesn't
pickle.
matter. You know, I like pickles. I like dill pickles particularly, but the worst kind is when you think it's a dill pickle and then you get it and it's not. Like, I think there's one called a bread and butter pickle. Have you ever had one of those? Yeah, I thought it was a dill pickle one time and ate it and then it wasn't. Really
disappointing.
What about pickle pops? You like pickle pops?
What, like the little like
frozen,
ices?
little frozen things. I don't know. I like pickles, but not that much. I don't guess. What about dill pickle sunflower seeds? You like those?
Yes, I do.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big sunflower seed guy, but dill pickle is where I draw the line. So, Mae Ellis, good to have you. Thankful that you're here. Yes. Really excited about this. I know this is going to be a great episode. We haven't even started yet, but I just know it's going to be good. Mainly because Mae is just one of those kind of people that she's got an incredibly kind disposition. She's wise, and I know she's going to be open and honest about her faith, and so that's going to be really good. So, mentioned to you just a second ago that we're going to talk about struggles, how we all go through struggles in our faith, how they hurt us, how they build us up. We're even going to kind of borrow from one of the best stories in history with Job and talk about some of his struggles. And so I'm really excited about this. But before we do that, I just want to remind you of something that's going to be a staple in the Point Blank podcast. And that is 1 Timothy 4:12, where Paul said, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but be an example to the believers in word and conduct and love and faith and in purity." And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be an example, not follow. We're trying to lead other people to Jesus. And that's exactly what our teens at Stony Point are trying to do. That's what Mae Ellis is going to help us do today, and we're thankful for that. So, Mae, let's think about struggles for a second, right? We talk about struggles, and I guess when we hear the word struggle, or maybe even have a discussion with people in their faith about struggle, we automatically think bad, right? Mm-hmm. How struggles hurt our faith. So let me ask you a question, I guess, from the outset that might get the story or the discussion started about this idea. Have you ever, and keep in mind, Mae's, you're 14?
Yes.
14 years old, headed into the 9th grade. And I think what she's about to share with you is going to be really encouraging. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever gone through anything, or maybe something you deal with that's made you question your faith or made you have to dig really deep? Like, how has a struggle that you've dealt with affected you negatively? How did it shake your faith? Yeah. And how did you respond?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I really don't ever talk about it, honestly. For the longest time, I've kind of felt like embarrassed of it, but it definitely has, like, you know, I'll catch myself asking God, like, why me, and, like, just thinking, like, I'm not good enough for this. Like, it's, like, it can mess with my self-confidence a lot, too, you know, and I feel like I've struggled with that a lot. But, yeah, so I feel like with this, though, I can use it in a positive way, but I just haven't ever. But how I struggled, like, with it is just, like, I don't know, sometimes, you think like, oh, I just want to be like her. Like, why can't I be like them? Comparison. But I've like just had to remind myself, like, God chose me for a reason. And like, it's honestly like, I feel like from such a young age, like I've had to mature because of it. I was diagnosed when I was 6. And actually, funny story, Miss Adcock, my kindergarten teacher, her daughter is a type 1 diabetic, and she started like picking up on kind of signs. And so she's the one that told my mom, like, hey, like, I've noticed this, like, and that's how we found out that I had it. And so I feel like God's really been with me, like, from the beginning, and like kind of just like gave me those people like Courtney and Miss Adcock, and their whole family is just precious. So like that whole family has like really helped me, and so just seeing him through that like really has like helped me. And like also I feel like you can either look at it 2 ways. So like I can either get really down about it, which is easy to do, or I can like be grateful that like I do have the stuff that I need. I have my insulin. I have such a good family who like helps me, and like it's like I can do it on my own,
Yeah.
Like I'm not in a hospital bed like struggling and stuff. So
well, I tell you what, so much to break down right there. Mae gave us a lot to chew on, a lot to think about, especially when it comes to struggles. And so let's sort of go back to the beginning where you talked about maybe some of the natural responses to your diagnosis or to your struggles. And I think some of the things that you mentioned were, maybe a little bit of anger, I guess, in some way. Like, why me? Why did this happen? Or why did I have to go through these things? And, we mentioned Job at the beginning. And I guess if we think about maybe some of the situation that revolved around Job's life, it was emotional pain and, mental and spiritual pain. But a lot of that was physical, too. And I guess probably all of those are true for you. I mean, I don't know about how the insulin stuff works, but even if it's just a finger prick, that would be tough on me. I don't, I don't do well with a finger prick. And that's just the small part of, I'm sure, the physical part of this, but also the, you mentioned the emotional, the mental, and even that leads to the spiritual struggles. So much of that is right here on the pages of Job. And I was listening to Mae talk about some of the things that she dealt with, that you mentioned something to the effect of doubt. Why is this happening to me? Why me? And that's what sometimes our struggles do. They narrow our focus to us, and we may not even realize like how many people are dealing with it, because our struggles sort of convince us that it's me, it's me. Or if it's anger, God, why? Why are you letting this happen to me? Or even isolation. Like, I feel so alone in my struggle. And this goes beyond, and I mean, Mae will tell you, this goes beyond just being a type 1 diabetic. Like, how many are your friends, Mae? How many friends do you know that are teens that at some point or another have some issue or struggle that make them feel those same ways?
I don't really know. Like, there definitely could be that I just don't know about, which kind of makes me sad because like I would want to be there for them. But yeah, I don't know.
And that's, typically kind of what we do with our struggles. When we're struggling, we do want to keep that to ourselves. I don't know if we feel like we're going to be a burden to someone if we tell them, or, I don't know. I have a bad tendency of doing that myself. It's like I just feel like I can handle it on my own, and so I don't want to make anybody else feel like they have to carry my stuff. What about, I don't know this, Mae, has it ever been a thought to you while you deal with your struggles, and maybe the doubt creeps in, or the feelings of isolation or being alone, or maybe even like anger with God, has that ever made you want to quit your faith?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Walk me through that thought process.
Honestly, like, it's hard because like I know like I have to deal with this the rest of my life. So like there are so many days where I just want to give up because I'm like, I really have no motivation, because like, I'll be doing this like forever,
Yeah. Our struggles, man, they make us feel like that. Sometimes walking away to us seems easier than holding on because of the effort that it takes to hold on. And so on and so forth. Just for a second, I want to just look at Job, or at least think about it, and just make it a point to point out, I guess, because Scripture is our greatest comfort. That's why God gave it to us, so we could know Him and know these stories. But like those emotions that Mae mentioned, the doubt, the isolation, the anger, all of those are right here on the pages of Job. Like in Job 3:11 or Job 10 and verse 3, where Job, is like essentially, why is this happening to me? Or in Job 19 when he's mentioning his isolation or feeling alone, or in Job 7 when he's sort of looking at God, questioning why these things are happening. And even Job, I'm sure, in his three friends, if you want to call them friends, when they were trying to offer all of this advice to him, like it might have been easier for him to think about just walking away than holding on. And so I think Mae's done a really great job of like framing this viewpoint, or this idea that struggles really have the power to shake our faith. Mm-hmm. And even if there's something of a small struggle, or maybe something that we feel like is just monumental, that like you said, I'll have to deal with this for the rest of my life, because sometimes struggles go away, but sometimes they don't. So how do those struggles shake my faith? Doubt, isolation, anger, maybe wanting to quit. Maybe you're listening, old or young, and you feel those same emotions. Those struggles have made you doubt, feel isolated, angry, or tempted to quit. Here's the turning point, though. This is where we get to talk about the good stuff, because the good thing about struggles is that they don't have to ruin us. They can make us better. They can make us stronger. So let's think about now how those struggles have made you stronger. You alluded to that a little bit when you were telling your story, but maybe you could think pretty specifically, I guess, about some things that you've seen in your faith that have become stronger because of your struggles.
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, my joy has become like so much stronger, especially after being baptized. There was like a period of my life where like I was just sad about it, because I felt like I couldn't relate to anyone, especially my age. And so, but like really, once I started focusing, like, I can always talk to God, and found that friend in Him, like it's really helped me, and I just feel so like much happier. And I think it's also helped me to find the good in like certain situations, because I can see like how God has helped me through this. He's made me so much stronger through this. And like I said earlier, I feel like from a young age I've just kind of been like mature, because I kind of had to learn like, okay, this is like, this is it,
you had no choice, that was the hand you were dealt.
Yes. And so I feel like there's so many things in disguise that like has helped me through it. And yeah.
And maybe even having to learn how to be intentional about looking for what those things are. Because, pain is powerful. It can be powerfully negative, which is what we've talked about. It can influence us to think things that we don't want to think, and we shouldn't. But it can be powerfully positive too. And that's what you're saying, is like there are these lessons that maybe you wouldn't have learned otherwise if you didn't have this struggle. And so it's good to know that. But all of those things that you mentioned, those are an intentional decision you have to make. I'm sure it's hard to be joyful when you have to get up and worry about your numbers every morning, or even the volatility of how you feel, because sometimes you may feel really good, but then in an instant you may not feel really good. And so I'm sure that it takes a lot of having to be very intentional about your mindset and your viewpoint, as it does for anyone who's listening that has a struggle that causes them to doubt or feel isolated or be angry or even want to give up. This intentional nature of trying to figure out what these struggles can do for you. So let me give you a couple of examples. Maybe if you're listening, something that Mae's alluded to, maybe if we tie them up and sort of, frame them in a I can write this down sort of way. Here's what I think struggles can do for us positively. And all of these things Mae's already mentioned. But the first one is struggles can clarify what you believe. Like it helps you sort of sort through what is meaningless and meaningful. What are the things in life or in this struggle that I really want to hold on to, and what are some things that I can just get rid of because they're not making it any better, they're not helping me. It strips away sort of surface level faith And so struggles have a good way of doing that. James says, knowing this, that the trying of your faith works patience. So struggles could actually make me a more patient person. I know that when we're in the struggle, we don't feel like that, but we look back and we say, yeah. I like what Job said in Job 42 and verse 5 when he said, my ears have heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. And maybe in your struggle, you feel that way. You said, I've seen God work. And in our struggles, we look back and we do that. We feel like Job, like, I knew God was there for me. But then you're better because of your struggle, and you're saying, now I see. Just like Job said in Job 42 and verse 5. But I also think it makes your faith your own, you know, because you've had to dig deep, Mae. I mean, your mom and your sister and anybody, they can be there for you, and they can be good examples. But you have to learn those lessons through your struggles, and you have to do something with your struggles. And so Job, you know, he didn't believe in God just because it was expected. These struggles and suffering that he encountered, it made him know God better. His friends were there, his wife was a bad influence, but he had to decide, I'm going to choose God better. And even to the point where in Job 19 and 25, I think he says, I know my Redeemer lives. And how else would he have known that if he hadn't gone through the struggles that he did? And that's what you said. You know God better because of your struggles. And I would assume that's probably worth it, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Because I feel like my relationship has, like, grown so much, especially as I've gotten older, because, like, I'm more aware of my, like, situation, you know? And, like, only God can get me through that, you know? And so I've seen him get me through it for the past 8 years, and I know he'll continue to help me. And yeah, it just makes me so like thankful and grateful to serve a God that is always with us.
So just for the listeners out there, you're telling me that you believe struggles aren't random, that they have a purpose. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Struggles have a purpose, that God allows those things in our life to test us and refine us and to make us stronger. It reveals what's real in our lives and what's fake. It prepares us to help others. Have you ever been able to help someone else because of your struggles?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I just think about all of our lives. Like, I can look back at things that that have happened, and now, you know, in ministry, like, I get to share that with someone else. Or I think about times in my life when I was young, and I look at people who are older than me, and they tell me about those experiences, good or bad, that helped make them who they were, and we're thankful for that. And like Job, you know, he lost everything, had everything literally taken away from him, but he gained a stronger relationship with God and was able to help others even now to this day, because we're still talking about him and the lessons that we learned from him, all because of the struggles that he faced. So I guess, you know, we'll just we'll start to wind this down. Maybe you have anything else you want to add to that, or anything you may think about? Or
well, kind of just I was thinking, like, I hope I can be an example to others, and like I hope I can let other people like know like God chooses you for a reason, like whether what your situation like is, you know. But yeah, having that confidence, like God chose me, like that also really helps me, and I hope I can help other people, like even if they don't have type 1 diabetes, just help them know that, you know, with God, you can do anything.
That's exactly right. You know, in your struggles, you may not ever get all the answers, but you can have God, and that's more than enough.
Yes.
Mae, you did a great job. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for challenging us and make us thinking about digging deeper in our struggles and how we can shift our mindset away from how it might hurt us negatively to being intentional about how finding ways to strengthen our faith are good for us, and they make us love God more. So proud of you. Thankful that you're here. Thanks for listening, and thanks for joining us on the Point Blank podcast. We'll see you next time.